St. John's Gospel, chapter 9, verses 1 to 12. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva, and smeared the clay on his eyes, and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed, and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is." But others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "So how were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I don't know." Actually, this is a long gospel, and I just took part of it. And I think the first thing that strikes most people who read this gospel is, was this man blind because he sinned or because his parents sinned? And they link the blindness with the sin committed. And Jesus says, no, neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. Now, St. Paul tells us in the epistle someplace that death is the compensation for sin. And I do believe that a lot of the illnesses and sicknesses in the world today occur because of sin. I don't think that's an overstatement. But I think what Jesus is stressing here is that you can't link, or you shouldn't link, a particular sin with a particular sickness or misfortune. It's true that the compensation for sin is upon the whole human race. All of us without exception, have a cross. All of us have suffering of some kind. And so we might say, in that sense, that sin is the cause of suffering. I don't think that's a misstatement. I think that's the truth. But you can't point a finger at a person and say, because he committed a certain sin, he has this sickness or this misfortune. I think that would be a mistake. And I think that's what Jesus is stressing here. That neither he nor his parents sinned. And his blindness is not because of that. Now, if we move on in the Gospel, he says, this is to show the wonderful works of God made visible through him. So, the things that happen in our life, if we accept them, now of all of us, everybody's equal, and we all have, as a human being, certain rights that belong to us as a human being, but every person's life is different. Some people are born in a wealthy family. Some people are born in poverty. Some with good health, others with a sickness. Well, you could go on and make all kinds of distinctions, and they wouldn't be mistaken. Because I think everybody's life is different. The important thing is to accept, to go along with what God has in mind for me, to walk the path of life that God has set for me. Now, for some people, that might be a very easy path. For others, it might mean an awful lot of suffering. The important thing is that we accept the will of God in our life and that we do it. And I think that's the point that Jesus is saying here. Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. And it was made visible through him because he was cured. Jesus cured him. A little point we might mention here is how Jesus worked through material things. Now, for us, it might be a little disgusting to hear the word spittle. But Jesus used spittle, and then actually there is a healing power in spittle. I don't know if you've ever had the experience. You probably did. Most people do. If you cut yourself a little bit or injure yourself, the first thing you do, or a lot of people anyway, is they put the wound to the mouth and they spittle. There's a healing power in spittle. And Jesus used spittle and then the earth, and he made clay. So it is through things that God heals us. And that could be in medicine also. We could apply that to medicine. It's a gift from God, and it's the way God heals us. That's why medicine is really a grace from God, you might say. Well, to move on, the man was cured. And he came back, and I suppose he showed his appreciation and thanks Jesus, but he didn't even know who it was. Because when they asked him, Who cured you? He says, I don't know. Where is he? They said. He says, I don't know. And, well, that's where we ended the gospel, but actually, if we want to carry it a step further, we might say, life is a search. I don't know. There's so many things in life. The very purpose of life, of being born, of dying, of afterlife, that it's a search. And I think prayer is so important in this search. Lord, enlighten my mind. Enlighten my heart. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. It's a light, not a physical light, so much as a spiritual light. A light which comes to wisdom, which brings us closer to our Creator, God. And so, I think in this short gospel, I made it short because of time, that we can learn various things from the gospel. First of all, we don't want to sin. Sin is not going to bring us good things, that's for sure. Guilty conscience. How many people there are who have, well, hate to mention it, but committed suicide because of guilty conscience. They despaired, and we should never despair. Remember always the mercy of God. No matter how big a sin, no matter how many sins a person commits, if he comes to Jesus with a spirit of contrition, saying, I'm sorry, Jesus is only too happy to receive that person and forgive all his sins and fill his heart with peace and with light and with love. So, in this gospel about this blind man, maybe our eyes could be opened, the eyes of our heart, that we might be able to accept the things that God has in mind for us and to follow him on his way to salvation. I am the life and the resurrection. Whoever believes in me, even though he dies, shall live. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you. Amen.